I'm Ali Nortier. I'm the Joint Head of Wealth Management at Investec Wealth and Investment. I've been at Investec about 10 years and I worked for Morgan Stanley in New York for about 10 years before that. I started my career in New York City, actually, working in the heart of Wall Street, actually, as in investment banking. And then I came back to Cape Town because I'd always wanted to come back home. Now as a wealth manager and looking after people's money, I started really exploring the relationship between money and happiness and developed this talk. I actually did it pre-COVID and now I've adapted a little bit for the situation we all currently find ourselves in. And so I started exploring the topic further and then discovered that there's actually been a large body of work already on money and happiness. From that, it's been great to actually share with clients the relationship between money and happiness and try and contextualize what different work people are doing and how it then can help them in their lives. Our role is just becoming more and more that of psychologist, behavioral coach, interconnecting the relationship between money and happiness and what it all means, more than just purely looking after the investments. That's basically what spurred on the talk. Peculiarly, the smell of A1 jet fuel reminds me of my mother. And this is because when I was young, she traveled extensively for business. And I used to naively think that she wore a very high octane, exotic type of perfume. And ironically, a generation later and before COVID, I used to find myself repeating the cycle, often sitting on an airplane, traveling for business. And this was often the place for some undisturbed concentration and a place where I could get some serious work done. But invariably, I'd find myself sitting next to a chatty person who'd ask me, what do I do for work? And if I was completely snowed under, I'd reply that I was a wealth manager. And this answer would typically get a glazed look and the conversation would have gotten cut short. But if I was in the mood for a chat, I would have answered that I'm a financial physician because this would have opened the doors to a much fuller discussion. The term wealth is actually often used interchangeably with money. And in fact, many dictionaries define wealth as the value of accumulated assets. This belief is actually held by many people and nations. But it appears actually that our recent emphasis on material gain has changed a very ancient concept. And if we dig deeper into the meaning of the word wealth, it's actually got a Middle English origin, and you'd find that the original meaning was actually well-being or the welfare of people and their general happiness and joy. So most people's understanding of the role of a wealth manager is someone who just looks after their investments and their money. The reality is that our role extends far further. Just as important is helping our clients understand how they behave towards money and how we can guard them against their emotional reactions. They tend to panic, and when they panic, they make inferior financial decisions. We also help them structure their affairs so that they can pass on a legacy for future generations. And ultimately, what we can show them is how their financial resources or their money can bring them true happiness by maximizing the potential of their investments. So expanding on this, I would actually venture that the role of a previous humble wealth manager has expanded to that of both a financial physician and often indeed that of a psychologist. So the need for this role in the time of COVID-19 is even more apparent. There's been recent research by Cantor that actually shows that people are more concerned about the financial effects of this virus than they are of catching the virus itself. Good financial health, however, is not achieved in the crisis of a pandemic. One needs to have a long-standing relationship with a financial physician so that when the crisis strikes, one is both suitably positioned from a financial perspective so that one can actually handle the resulting challenges, both financially and emotionally. As a financial physician for my clients, the first consultation involves a full checkup, latex gloves and all. So each family or person has got a very different set of circumstances or life aspirations or goals. So it's very critical to get this initial diagnosis correct. Whatever stage of life a person's at, the financial physician's role is to give them guidance and a solution. Some people actually want to know whether they're at the end of the road in terms of their accumulation of wealth, whether they've got enough money to retire. Some people want to know if they've got enough money if they want to live until they're 100. Other people want to provide for the next 3 generations. Identifying people in transition is actually another very common diagnosis, whether it be inheritance, divorce, death. Some people want to rule from the grave. And whilst we're very good at our roles, our mandate actually does not extend to the afterlife. This initial diagnosis needs to be updated with regular checkups, at least a couple of times a year, just to make sure that the family or person stays on course and to adapt to any changes that might occur during their lives. A good prescription after the initial meeting will blend together a compound of core investments. And this could include traditional asset classes such as equities, bonds, property, and cash. And this may need to be supplemented, depending on the symptoms, with some alternative investments such as private equity or structured products. All of these are then mixed together to create an appropriate solution for the particular life challenge or aspiration that the family or person may have. With over 45,000 shares available on global stock exchanges and more mutual funds and exchange-traded funds available than there are shares, I would venture that a good financial physician actually have their own global apothecary. For example, here in Investec, we actually have our global investment strategy group, comprises some of the best minds in the business, which helps us decide where the best macro opportunities for our clients lie. Also deeply embedded in our DNA is actually our proximity to our extensive portfolio management teams and our research teams, who make sure that our clients' investments are placed in companies and in industries well positioned for the future. One doctor alone cannot possibly be responsible for creating their own medicine, also making sure that the ingredients are not tainted, that they actually produce the desired effects. And currently, these specialist teams at Investec have been working ceaselessly to examine the companies that our clients are invested in, to make sure that they've got enough liquidity and to make sure that they're invested in the opportunities of tomorrow. We live in a world of information abundance. And whilst this comes with amazing benefits, think online education for all, the reality is that people are drowning in information right now. This pandemic has taken us to new levels of information overload. Real news, fake news, is that real news, Trump news, supported by extensive research teams. Financial physicians should be able to distill, translate, and deliver their clients with real, up-to-date, and accurate information.